Weekdays for Marco Amadio are spent at his day job at Xerox, while evenings and weekends are spent serenading audiences. It is hard to not stop and stare in awe when you hear the smooth vocals and effortlessly talented piano playing by the musician who could be found performing in piano bars and concert venues throughout our region. Amadio describes music as medicine and singing as his form of service to others. He is joining me in the studio to discuss his musical journey and music's magical capabilities. And Marco, it is great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Helen.
So I have a true story for you. I'm at Panavino having dinner on a Sunday, and I'm just about to remark that, oh my gosh, I love this rendition of a Sinatra song. And all of a sudden I hear people start clapping, and they're clapping because it was you performing in the restaurant, and I was absolutely in awe. And I know that you've heard applause for a long time, considering that you've been playing and singing since you were 5 years old. So yes. I'm curious, do you remember what you loved about music as a child that made you so focused and grounded?
I think it was the music itself. It was the melody, the chord changes, which kind of inspired me. It was very organic as far as what that is. It's the type of thing where it affected me even when I was little, because something would play on the radio and I would be pointing. I couldn't even talk yet. That's when my father knew that I had something for music.
And you were self-taught. Is that correct?
At the beginning.
At the beginning.
So he bought me a piano, and I started plinking around, and I found chords, you know, and I try to listen to the radio and try to imitate those chords. And then soon after, I got lessons, and I ended up going to the Eastman Prep department when I was like 10, maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know a little bit in terms of how you would classify your musical style and your genre.
You know, it's very varied, because through all the years that I've been playing so many different types of venues. The venue you were describing is more of a relaxing background type performance where people are enjoying they're talking to each other and kind of fall in the background, trying to do something kind of smooth, nothing too loud. And then I have concerts where people are focusing only on you, and you're trying to, you know, put a show on to make it interesting for the audience. And then you have parties and weddings and everything in between. So, you know, it varies, and you've got to adjust to every style just to be versatile.
I was curious as to what you were going to say, because you're a multilingual singer. I mean, your songs are in varied languages, yeah. and I've heard just about every different type of music come from you. So I was curious as to how you kind of would pinpoint yourself, but variety.
Yeah, well, I was born in Italy, so that makes it easy. My Italian makes it easy. And since I speak Italian, Spanish is easy. And then I picked up French, do a couple of French songs just from mimicking, not so much knowing even what they're saying. I just kind of mimic it. And it, you know, if my French friend says it sounds good, so I'm going to go with it. Portuguese, I'm doing like maybe Girl from Ipanema, I do it in Portuguese instead. So it works out really well. I mean, you know, it's authentic.
Yeah. So you mentioned your family moved from Rome, Italy to Rochester, and this was in 1968.
68.
Yep. So what type of influence would you say your upbringing has had on your music?
Well, it was funny because I just did mainly Italian music when I was young, and I didn't know a word of English until I was 5, and I went to school. So I'm walking into school, and I don't know any English at all. And so my experience with the music was all Italian songs in the background, Italian radio playing, and then after a while I started getting into different styles, and I picked up starting to listen to Billy Joel and some of the rock tunes that got into bands when I was 14 years old. I was already in a band. And then after that, I started getting into jazz. So it's kind of like, it wasn't like I heard jazz records playing when I was a kid. I had to find all the stuff out for myself, and just great stuff. I loved it.
Well, we have a short clip of you playing Leonard Cohen's rendition of Hallelujah. And this is also on your new album, I believe, this song. Yes. So we'll check it out.
There was a secret chord David played, and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? When it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fourth, and the major lift, baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah.
Marco, how much of your work is inspired by and a tribute to other artists versus the work that is your own original pieces?
Well, I think all of it's inspired in some kind of way, some liberal way that I don't really always understand, but when I start to do some chords, I can see some similarities in different types of music that I've heard or played, and it all influences me. And whether it's rock or jazz or funk, I played a lot of funk back in the 70s, 80s when that was the thing, and so I think it all influences me, but I don't directly try to copy anything. So it just comes to me in bits and pieces, and I go in one direction or another. But yeah, it becomes original, but I'm always influenced by everything I hear. So.
And do you have a specific songwriting process for you?
Sometimes it starts with an idea of I have a lyric, or sometimes I sit down and chord changes that I particularly like, and I say, oh, that sounds cool together, and then I'll start making a melody from those chord changes, and then I'll put lyrics to it, and I'll start constructing that way. So a few different ways, and sometimes I'm in my car, and I'm, now with the new phones and stuff, you can kind of record a little bit of what you're thinking, and it works out really well. I can kind of continue it at home, but that thought, when it comes in, sometimes it goes away, so you got to capture it right when it's there.
Well, when I was at Panavino and I said, oh my gosh, this is somebody who's actually sitting here singing, and performing, one of the patrons said to me, his voice is like silk. That is what the person said to me. And I want to know, you told my colleague that singing to you is like providing a service to others. So in what ways do you hope that your music serves?
Well, I just love doing it, and I hope that comes out to the audience, that it's something that it's like really special to me, and I just love doing it, and it's a talent that I want to share, with everyone, and I hope that they get that out of it when I'm performing, whether it's something that I'm totally focused on, or like if the audience is focusing on me, or they're just focusing on having a conversation, but they hear something pleasant in the background, and that's really all I want, is just to have people enjoy it.
I know you said this, and I've heard other singers and performers say music is like medicine, and there's a form of healing connected to it. I'm curious as to why you believe that is, and in what ways.
I think it's totally like medicine, because it's to me it's easy for me to say, because I just love it. And when I hear a song, I think musicians hear it in a different way than people that aren't musicians, because they can break it down, the vocal and what's happening with the chord changes and what's how they're approaching that song, and it's therapeutic for me. And I think it is I don't think it gets enough attention anymore in that way. I think it's become kind of something in the background. But I remember the times when I was a kid listening to albums, and you would just really get into it. It was like an experience. And we'd turn off the lights, and you imagine everything that was going on. And you can hear the people playing together. Musicians used to play in a group together, and it was great recordings. And I think that's what it is. It's something you can't touch, but you can feel.
I know that you said your family is quite influential, or plays a role in terms of what you do. And what ways do you make sure you incorporate your family into your work?
Well, it's always been family first for me, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to stay local. And I didn't, because I knew one day I would get happiness from. It was a balance thing. So we have, family, and I have, work, and then I have music, and it's a great balance. But they help me out and encourage me in every way, and especially my wife. She's always, you have to have a great musician, wife when you're a musician, to understand. And she's just phenomenal. She's talented herself. She does pictures, and she's an artist too. So. Yeah. Well,
you recently released your latest album, Credo.
Yes.
What are you most proud of with this album?
One of the things that I had to do it, because my time is very limited between working and being a father and playing out gigs. So I had to get creative on how I'm going to carve out time to record this. So it'd be sometimes 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd wake up, and then it was just one of those things where it just happened, and I'm just thankful to God that was the case.
It's a beautiful album and incredible work. And I really appreciate your time. And thank you for being here and for sharing your talent with us and with our community. You can learn more about Marco and his latest work, also when he'll be performing. Just go to his website, marcoamadio.com.